many habits in us that are inevitable. Our brother Rodolph has taken me to the bank today, and the bank officer asked me to give a specimen signature. Why the signature is the same always? It is habit. If we don't have the help of the habit, how can we have? And if we do two signatures in a different way like this, the bank officer asks us to get out. We cannot have a check cashed, and no one accepts any papers from us if we have no signature. So what we call signature is nothing but habit. What we call handwriting is nothing but habit. But these are necessary habits. They are required, and we should understand the difference between positive and negative habits. We should use the power of habit to neutralize the negative habits. And in fact, positive habits have more power upon us than negative habits because nature is essentially positive. I will give you a little example. One person goes to Vatican City 1 month every year. He sits there daily in meditation, and after the month is complete, he comes back again and joins his job. Another person, a Jew, goes to Jerusalem once in a year, and about 3 hours a day he sits there at the synagogue, and after a month he comes back and does his business. And another yoga student goes to the Himalayas every year in the same month, for example in December, and he stays there for 1 month doing some practices with his master. And there is a fourth fellow who goes on drinking Scotch whiskey day and night, and he cannot do anything if he stops. There is another person who takes that much of opium every day in the night. He cannot sleep if there's no opium. Another person drinks about 3 liters of coffee in the day. That is Krishnamacharya. You bring these 6 fellows and shut them in a prison. Give the fellows good food and good healthy drink, and if they want good music, give them music also, and provide them with a good library of many types of books. Let them have a good garden and a good valley. But shut these fellows and let them not go to Vatican or Jerusalem or Himalaya. And shut these fellows away from their bottles, their opium and their coffee. See what happens. This fellow begins to think, this morning they will be opening the gates and I would have been there in the Vatican City listening to the church bells, and now it is 8 o'clock, the music will be going on there. I would have attended the opera and I would have lighted there in the place before the Pope's residence, the Swiss gardens, etc. He is thinking about it. First day. The second day, again he is thinking. After 10 days, what happens? He can have a better view of his experiences with the Vatican. He will have a continuous vision of his own going there. His imagination becomes clearer and clearer, and he begins to live in his own world better. Same thing with the second fellow, the Jew. He will have a clear memory of Jerusalem than when he physically visited. And this fellow will have a better conversations with his guru in the Himalayas, because now he has everything in his vision. Day after day, he is drawn more and more towards what he wants. He creates his own world in which he begins to live. And after 10 or 15 days, he never cares to know that he is away from his holy place, because in fact he is never away from it. At first, he was foolish to believe that he was away when he was physically away. But gradually he could recognize that he was not away. That is what happens to these fellows. And what about the other fellows? They suffer a hell on the first day. They feel that they are dying. And the coffee fellow will have a terrible headache and a constipation. The opium fellow will have a pulling of all the nerves in the body. The alcohol fellow will have a terrible trembling of the whole body. So each one has his own inferno, his own hellfire, into which he falls in his Shirshasana. The second day, he has his suffering, but it is less. The third day, he suffers, but it is less. After 10 days, they are otherwise engaged in some book or some reading or some writing or some observation. The fellow never cares for what has been lost, because his habit becomes less and less powerful, and it fails to wield an influence upon. It begins to lose its grip upon the person, whereas to these persons it becomes more and more. That is what happens when the positive habit and the negative habit are controlled. So, positive habits have a greater control over man than negative habits. This is because nature is essentially progressive and positive. It wants us to make better. That is what the process of evolution proves.